Moose DuPont's with me. And have I teed this up too much? Have I made too much of this?
I don't know.
You're going to find out.
It's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal. The Slapshot SweetHearts. That's the name of their podcast. They host it in the United States. Let's bring him in, producer Clark. Meg is in California. She's in the top screen. Shannon is in Washington. The last I talked to her, she's in the bottom screen. Good morning, ladies. How you doing?
Good.
We're good. How are you?
Yeah, we're fantastic. I'm so grateful. I'm honest when I say 2 weeks ago when you brought me on your program, it's just been fantastic for me. I think it's been good for you guys too. Shannon, I'll start with you. If you wouldn't mind, can you just tell the viewers a little bit about your hockey fandom? Like, you seem maybe a little juxtapositioned here. You're a Bruins fan living in Washington. What's your deal?
Yeah, so as a Bruins fan in Washington, I'm a little annoyed this morning after last night's game. But, I grew up about a half an hour south of Boston, right outside of Foxborough. So, natural diehard Boston Patriots, Bruins, Celtics, Red Sox fan. And now I live in Washington, D.C. and work down here, went to college down here, which is how Meg and I met. So I have a soft spot for the Washington sports teams. Capitals, I can't get behind the Nationals, but the Wizards and the Washington football team are, have a special place in my heart. But, like I said, after last night's game, the Capitals are, skating on thin ice, literally and figuratively.
Yeah, well, they won in a shootout in Boston, and Charles returned, so we'll talk about that. And you're also the marketing director for Belly Up Sports, so I want to come back on that. But let's bring Meg in. I'll tell you, both these girls, I can tell you, know their stuff. They've got an edge. Like, they would stick you if they had to, like Ovi did to Frederick. I know they would. Meg, you're in California, but you're a Jersey girl, correct? Like, let's tell our viewers a little bit about you.
Yeah, I grew up in Jersey. I went to school in D.C., but I'm a Pennsylvania sports fan, more or less. Penn State football, and then obviously hockey. I'm a Penguins fan. Unlike Shannon, I'm feeling really good this week, even without Crosby. We had a nice win on Tuesday. I'm feeling pretty good, but yeah, the Penguins are my boys, but I definitely have a soft spot for Vegas, and then a few certain capitals I'll keep near and dear to my heart. But yeah.
Good. Well, yeah, like we say, Canada's team, the Vegas Golden Knights. Darren, when you have a question, you put your hand up. Okay?
Don't worry. I'm just enjoying.
You're okay. Well,
Can I just enjoy?
Yeah, me too. So I'm just going to just pinball and kind of go back and forth here. Shannon, let me ask you this. The Slapshot SweetHearts. We didn't really get into this when I guested on your show, but how have you people been welcomed in the hockey world as females talking sports? What's it been like? Let's start with you, Shannon.
Yeah, so it's actually been incredible. We have only been around since New Year's this year, so just a little over 2 months now, and we have been able to grow in the hockey community very quickly, and we are so grateful for that. We've put in a lot of work both on YouTube, Twitter, more recently Facebook, trying to just get the word out and, get to know the members of the hockey community, because it is a smaller community compared to the other professional sports. So it's been really great, especially on Twitter, getting to know the fandoms of the teams that both we're passionate about and the ones that we don't necessarily know. We're hosting a watch party tonight with a group of fans of the Dallas Stars, and that is just a fandom that beyond the Bruins trading away Tyler Seguin, I am not familiar with. So, we're really excited to just keep expanding our network and getting to know whoever we can within the hockey community. And, as women in the hockey community, it's been give and take. Sometimes people say, get off my screen, you don't know what you're talking about. But it's been, overall very great and very welcoming.
Well, I'll tell you, when anybody says that, please send them to me, because I know that you guys know what you're talking about, and I wouldn't have you on here if you didn't. And I'm going to bring this up to Meg, too. But first, Ivan's watching in Toronto, and he says, aren't the Washington Capitals in Washington, D.C.? Ivan, look, you need to speak girl. You're not understanding. They're from Washington or have lived in Washington, but they don't cheer for the Capitals. That's what they're saying, okay? So follow along. Now, Meg, to you, how have you been received in the wonderful sport of hockey? Not just with Slapshot SweetHearts, but also just yourself as a fan.
Well, in terms of the podcast, pretty good. It's fun making friends with everyone, and everyone's been pretty chill. We have some great comments when we go live, and it's great getting to meet a lot of other people. As a fan, I am definitely a target of some hate sometimes. I'm that loudmouth girl who walks into an arena sporting every jersey but the home team. So I definitely get my fair share of comments, but like, I'll give it right back to you. It's just in the culture.
Yeah, well, I could tell that about you for sure. Now, I'll stay with you, Megan. Yeah, we had a great chat about the Lake Tahoe games. And you guys were both kind of ragging on the NHL for the lack of marketing around it. And, the merchandise wasn't really there. So now we're post Lake Tahoe games. How did you feel that they came off?
I mean, my main issue is that, like, how did you not take sun into consideration when planning an outdoor game? I don't really understand that issue that happened. Like, you would think there would be some planning or, like, contingency from the start, but I think it's a shame too, because viewership was really hurt by that midnight Eastern restart time, which is just such a shame. But I mean, I'm sad that Vegas didn't win, but I think it was still fun to watch. Even like me being in California, it's nice because like the time difference, I saw it at 9 p.m. It was a great time for me, but give and take with it. I wish it had been executed better. And if it had, it would have been better for more people, but I still had a good time watching.
Yeah, for sure. And to you, Shannon, I mean, you're the Bruins fan, and I'm the same. I was like, they have to have figured this out, right? They have professional ice makers, and it just seems like they didn't. But from the Bruins' perspective, they lit up Carter Hart. You had to be happy with, although it was late, you had to be happy with how it came from a Boston perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with what Meg was saying. I asked her to cover the Avalanche Golden Knights game on our Twitter because I wasn't available that day. And she texted me and was like, there's no game to cover. They postponed it to midnight. And I was like, you have to be kidding. There's no way that they really let it get that far in terms of all, like you said, had already been doing on the NHL for their poor management of the game. So then when it came to the next day, and I obviously did not watch it. I am not someone that is going to be awake to watch a game at midnight. But when we got to the next day and we got to the Bruins game and the Flyers game, I was really excited. I had made appetizers. I was all ready. And even then, they were not ready to start the game at 7 o'clock. It got postponed to 8 o'clock. And the reason that I stayed up to watch it was because it was a 10-goal game between both teams. The Bruins came out and scored 34 seconds in, which is always nice to see. And it must be frustrating as Carter Hart to be glared by the sun. Some of those goals he played horribly either way, but some of those goals, there was nothing he could do about because he's just playing in the sun. And as an outdoor game their game was outdoors, but it's not an outdoor sport. The equipment does not support outdoor play all the time for every single player, which I think is a little bit frustrating for goaltenders specifically.
Yeah, by the way, I just asked Darren if he had a question. He's like, no, I'm just loving it. They're giving it. And I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't have had them on if I didn't think that they would. So, by the way, can you show a picture of Darren just so the girls know?
It's great.
He is here. Moose DuPont. He's just sitting here and he's enjoying it. There you go. So,
I will ask you
got
a question.
something?
Well,
okay.
Just back to Meg on the old trolling in other people's buildings. What's the worst thing you've done? That's one thing I was thinking. What's the craziest thing you've done in somebody else's building as a fan?
Well, I've seen a lot of Penguins Capital games in, what is it now, Capital One Arena. Used to be the Verizon Center back when Shannon and I were in college. A lot of people just yell and they're like, go home. And I'm like, well, this isn't a good comeback. I'm like, are you even from here? And like, have you seen the standings? And a lot of the games I go to are like during playoffs. And I was in school during the 2 back-to-back Stanley Cup runs for the Pens. So, like, we'd be, like, up in a series, and they'd be like, you suck. And I'm like, have you seen what's happening? You're the worst. And I'm like, someone will be, like, booing me. And I'm like, I know, it's really hard. It must be really hard to cheer for that type of team. But, it's just a little passive-aggressive wit is what gets me through.
I love it. Richard Allender's watching in Boston. He says, wicked good podcast, Shannon. So there's one directed specifically to you from a Boston person. But this is what shocked me a little bit. And for our Canadian viewers, it opened up my eyes a little bit. I mean, I told you guys that my dad worked for the Dallas Stars for 26 years. So I'm familiar with Sunbelt hockey, believe me, and that the NHL isn't number one in a lot of those cities. But what the girls were saying on their podcast is that the NHL is not marketed as well as you'd like to see in America. And it's shocking in Canada for anybody to say that, because as I told you, the NHL is sport number 1, 2, 3, and 4, and SportsCenter is all NHL highlights, and it's hockey, hockey, hockey everywhere you go. And you should have seen you two's face when I said that, because you're like, sounds like a dream world, that hockey's number 1. You know what I mean? So I'll go to you, Shannon, because I'm not sure what your schooling's in, Megan, but Shannon, you're marketing communications major. What would you like to see the NHL do in America, and what are they not doing right now, or what they could do better?
Well, it's interesting that you say that hockey is sport 1, 2, and 3 in Canada, because I found out the other day that it's not the national sport, and that lacrosse is the national sport in Canada. And I was baffled when I heard that. I was surprised.
I learned that in grade 4, and I'm still shocked by that. But anyways, continue. Sorry.
Right. So, I mean, it's interesting. I am getting my MBA, so that is where the marketing perspective comes in there. And I am interested in the lack of education about the sport. I think that is where the NHL really fails. You know, you can turn on a game. I was talking last night with my boss at my day job, and she grew up in Alabama where there's no team. And if there's no team, there's no reason to go learn about the sport unless you're actively interested in learning more about a given, league, something like that is not in your area. You learn about football because you go to a game. You learn about basketball because you go to a game. The NHL is not doing a good job in Canada. It's the game that you're playing everywhere. And if you're not either playing it, growing up, watching it, attending a game, there's no rationale to go, learn about it. And they don't show it on TV enough for people to learn about it if they're not in proximity to either playing or watching it physically. And especially in COVID-19, when you can't go to a game, it's significant in terms of the education perspective.
How about you, Meg? What would you like to see the NHL do better?
I would like to see those blackout zones for people who pay around $30 a month to watch all hockey go away, because when I'm home in Jersey with my family, I can't see 4 out of the 8 teams that are in the East Division because they're so central to Jersey. Like, why can't I watch my own teams? That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, that is a real personal pet peeve for you. I get that sense.
Oh, yeah.
I know, and Shannon's laughing too. So anyways, that's one of a few things that you guys brought up on your show. And just in the time we have left, I'll let you both give a spiel for the Slapshot SweetHearts podcast. Shannon, you first. Where can they find it, and why should they find it?
Yeah, so you should find it, because Megan and I are having some incredible guests on these days. Beyond having Rod on, we just had our first formal professional player, and we talked a lot about hockey prospect development and, the path to becoming a pro, which was really interesting. We just had an ESPN fantasy hockey writer, and we talked all about, the how-tos of fantasy hockey. So if you don't play, I highly recommend you check that out so you can learn a little bit more about fantasy sports. And we just keep bringing in those guests. We're really excited to, expand our network, as I was saying at the beginning of the show. So you can find me at Swelshy63 on Twitter. You can find us at SweetHeartsPod on Twitter. You can just search Slapshot SweetHearts on pretty much any social media platform, and we are on there. And then I can kick it over to Meg so that she can talk a little bit about her socials as well. She's trying to get a little bit more into Twitter. She was not prior to us starting the podcast.
Okay, cool. There you go, Meg. Top that.
I get so much hate from my personal Twitter because I work in news. Like, my brand on Twitter was like politics and like pop culture with like a dash of like Penguins, hockey, and Penn State football. And everyone was like, started calling me out. They're like, you don't follow me on your personal. And I was like, guys, I don't even go on here very often. I'll follow you, call me out. There was like a full day where everyone was just hating on me. But no, I mean, follow me everywhere else. It's Miss Meg Rach everywhere. And then Shannon and I, if you find our pages, we go live at least once a week with different podcasts from so many different teams, a little bit of something for everyone. We have giveaways coming up. There's one tonight. We have some big announcements that we're holding on to that we're hoping to make rather soon. But there's so much more coming from us. And like Shannon said, we're so new. We're on month 3. And it's just growing and growing. And we want everyone to come along for the ride.
Well, I'm a fan, and I appreciate you coming on. Slapshot, SweetHearts, they are very easy to find on social media and those podcast platforms. And just from some of the viewers from Belly Up Sports, they're watching. They say, let's go. Ryan McCarthy is watching in Albany, New York. He says, hey, ladies, representing Belly Up. You guys know Ryan well, so thanks for making the introduction to me. Thanks for coming on today. And go get him. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us.
Meg and Shannon, the Slapshot SweetHearts.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.